The first body was found in subsection 7, slumped against a data terminal. The second collapsed in the middle of a corridor. The third died in the medical bay, seeking help that arrived too late. All Ithrani, all dead within 12 days. All with the same neural hemorrhaging. Delicate tissues inside their skulls vibrated into pulp. The station went quiet after that. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The kind where everyone speaks in whispers and checks the corners before entering a room. Where fear moves through recycled air like contagion. Faye Bridger sat in the communications hub, headphones dangling from her neck. The broadcast board in front of her was dark, silent. Every switch thrown to the off position by order of Commander Rost himself. She'd been playing Springsteen when the security detail arrived. Born to Run cutting out mid-chorus, replaced by the clipped tones of Ithrani authority. Report to Commander Rost. Immediately. Bring nothing. The investigation took 4 hours. 4 hours of Commander Rost's cold stare and clipped questions, his pale violet skin gleaming under harsh station lights. 4 hours of explaining that yes, she broadcast human music throughout the common areas. No, she hadn't considered it dangerous. Why would she? Music didn't kill people, except apparently it did. Now she was confined to quarters, not arrested, not yet. But the security detail outside her door made the distinction meaningless. The door chimed. Faye looked up from her bunk, where she'd been lying fully clothed, staring at the ceiling and trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. Enter. The Ithrani who stepped through was unfamiliar. Taller than most of their species, with skin the color of deep twilight, purple-blue and faintly luminous at the edges. They wore a medical officer's white uniform, crisp and precise. Their face was narrow, features angular in that way that made most Ithrani look perpetually disapproving. Specialist Bridger. Their voice was carefully neutral. I am Medical Officer Siv'reth. I have been assigned to investigate the recent fatalities. Faye sat up. And you think I killed them? I think nothing yet. That is why I investigate. Siv'reth moved into the room with measured steps, studying everything. The walls covered in concert posters from Earth, the portable speakers in the corner, the collection of vintage vinyl records mounted in protective cases. You maintain this auditory archive? It's called music. We call it pattern sound. It is forbidden among my people. Yeah, I got that memo. 3 corpses worth of memo. Faye's voice came out harder than she intended, fear manifesting as anger. Look, I've been broadcasting Earth music on this station for 2 years. No problems. None. Dozens of Ithrani hear those broadcasts every day. Why would these 3 suddenly die from it? Siv'reth pulled out a datapad, reviewing notes with clinical precision. The victims, Pthun, Korashi, and Livwan. All recent arrivals to the station. All from the Kel'thar colonies. Where's that? Orthodox settlements. Traditional. They maintain the old prohibition strictly. Siv'reth's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in their eyes. No pattern sound, no music, no harmonic vocalization beyond basic communication. They arrive on stations like this with no prior exposure. Faye stood, pacing the small space. You're saying they'd never heard music before, correct? And the first time they did, it killed them. The scans are conclusive. Cascading neural resonance. Their brain tissue vibrated at frequencies incompatible with structural integrity. Siv'reth tilted their head, studying Faye. Commander Rost believes your broadcasts are weapons. Sonic attacks against my people. That's insane. Is it? 3 dead. All exposed to your transmissions. What conclusion would you draw? Faye stopped pacing. Looked directly at the Ithrani medical officer. I'd draw the conclusion that something else is going on. Because if music was universally fatal to your species, every Ithrani on this station would be dead. Including you. You're standing in a room where I play music every day. The walls are saturated with it. Siv'reth said nothing, but their silence felt different than before, thoughtful rather than cold. Unless, Faye continued, her mind racing, it's not the music that's dangerous. It's the lack of prior exposure. Explain. Humans have a concept called immunology. Our bodies learn to handle threats through graduated exposure. A little bit of a dangerous thing makes you resistant to a lot of that thing. She gestured to the datapad in Siv'reth's hands. You said these 3 came from orthodox colonies, never heard music. Then they arrive here and suddenly they're hit with rock and roll and classical and jazz all at once. Their neural chemistry had no chance to adapt. Siv'reth's expression shifted minutely. Not quite agreement, but definitely interest. And the other Ithrani on station? They've been here, been exposed. Their brains have adapted, built up tolerance over time. Faye leaned forward. Your government knows this, don't they? That's why they maintain the prohibition. Not because pattern sound is universally dangerous, but because unexposed Ithrani are vulnerable. That is a significant accusation. It's also the only explanation that fits the evidence. Siv'reth studied her for a long moment. Then they pulled up files on the datapad, fingers moving quickly across the interface. I have reviewed 300 years of Ithrani medical literature. Pattern sound exposure is classified as universally hazardous to neural health. Studies confirm permanent damage from even minimal exposure. What studies? Government research, classified until 60 years post-publication. Standard procedure for sensitive medical data. But Siv'reth's voice had changed. The certainty was cracking. Can I see them? You are human. You lack clearance. And you have clearance. Faye stepped closer, careful not to crowd. When you look at those studies, do they show what happened to these three? Cascading resonance from first exposure, or do they show something else? Siv'reth's luminous eyes met hers. A moment passed, then another. I will review the research more carefully. They turned toward the door, paused. If you are correct about graduated exposure, then the deaths were not murder. They were preventable tragedy. And if I'm right, there might be a fourth victim coming. What do you mean? You said all three came from the same orthodox colony, same arrival window. If they traveled together, there might have been others. Faye pulled up the station manifest on her personal terminal. 4 Ithrani arrived from Kel'thar 2 weeks ago. 3 are dead. Siv'reth moved back to the terminal, scanning the data. Their skin paled slightly. Pithara, assignment, environmental systems. She has been working near Broadcast Relay Junction 7. High exposure area. We need to scan her. Now. I cannot authorize your removal from confinement. Then you go. Check her neural patterns. If she's showing early symptoms, we might still have time to save her. Siv'reth hesitated, then nodded sharply and left without another word. Faye sank back onto her bunk. Her hands were shaking. 3 people dead because she'd been playing Earth music through station speakers. Because she'd wanted to share culture, to build bridges, to make this isolated station in deep space feel more like home. Because she'd been selfish and thoughtless and naive. The door chimed again 40 minutes later. Siv'reth returned, their expression grim. Pithara shows preliminary neural stress. Early stage. She is experiencing headaches, audio sensitivity, disorientation. I estimate 72 hours before cascading resonance begins. Faye stood. Then we have 72 hours to prove this can be treated. How? The same way humans build immunity. Graduated exposure. We start with simple rhythms, basic patterns. Let her neural chemistry adapt in stages before introducing more complex sounds. You want to expose her to the very thing causing her condition. Small doses, controlled, monitored constantly. Faye met Siv'reth's eyes. It's the only way. Commander Rost will never approve this. So we don't ask permission. Siv'reth stared at her. For the first time, their neutral mask slipped completely. You are asking me to commit direct insubordination, to risk another life on an untested theory. I'm asking you to save a life, and to stop this from happening again. Faye's voice softened. You have doubts. I can see it. About the prohibition, about the official story. This is your chance to find out the truth. The medical officer was silent for a long time. Then they pulled up the datapad again, scrolling through dense medical files. I accessed the classified studies, all of them. Do you know what I found? Tell me. The research shows pattern sound affects Ithrani neural chemistry. This is true. It creates resonance in our neural tissues. Siv'reth's voice was quiet now, almost hollow. But the studies also show that neural adaptation occurs within 2 to 8 weeks of graduated exposure. That adapted Ithrani show no adverse effects. That pattern sound, properly introduced, is harmless. They buried that. They classified it, along with the methodology for safe adaptation. Siv'reth looked up, and for the first time Faye saw real anger in those alien features. 300 years of prohibition. 300 years of maintaining that vulnerability. Ensuring that any Ithrani who encounters pattern sound without government supervision is at risk. Control through protection, control through fear. Siv'reth's expression hardened into something resolute. I will bring Pithara to Medical Bay 3. It is scheduled for decontamination unused. We will have privacy. Commander Rost, I will handle Commander Rost. You will design the exposure protocol. Faye felt her breath catch. You're really doing this. I am really doing this. Siv'reth moved to the door, then paused. And Specialist Bridger, if we are wrong, if this kills Pithara, we will both face criminal charges. If we're wrong, she dies anyway. At least this way she has a chance. Siv'reth nodded once. The door closed behind them. Faye turned to her music collection. 300 terabytes of human sound organized by genre and ira and emotional resonance. Everything from Gregorian chants to death metal. Somewhere in there was the key to saving Pithara's life. She started pulling files. Simple rhythms first. Heartbeat patterns. Breathing sounds. The most basic building blocks of music. The things that existed in nature before humans ever thought to organize them into art. This was going to work. It had to work. Her hands were steady now. She had a job to do. Medical Bay 3 smelled like antiseptic and ozone. The lights were dimmed to accommodate Ithrani preference, casting everything in shades of blue and purple. Monitoring equipment lined the walls, screens dark and waiting. Pithara sat on the examination platform, looking small and frightened. She was younger than the others had been, her skin a lighter shade of violet, not yet deepened by age. When Faye entered, she flinched. "You are the one who makes pattern sound." Her voice was weak, strained. "They say you killed them." "I played music that killed them," Faye said quietly. "I didn't know it would. But yeah, my broadcasts, my responsibility. I'm trying to make sure you don't become number 4. Siv'reth was setting up the monitoring equipment, attaching sensors to Pithara's temples and throat. "Her neural stress is increasing. We need to begin soon." Faye pulled out her portable speaker, small, battery-powered with precise volume control. She'd loaded it with the first phase of her protocol. "Pithara, I need you to trust me. This is going to be uncomfortable, maybe painful, but we're going to save your life. By exposing me to more pattern sound, by teaching your brain to handle it, in small steps, the way it should have happened naturally if you'd been exposed gradually over time." Faye looked at Siv'reth. "Ready?" "Monitoring active, beginning baseline measurements." They nodded. "Proceed." Faye pressed play. The first sound was a human heartbeat, recorded, amplified, steady. Boom boom, boom boom, 60 beats per minute. The most basic rhythm in the human experience. Pithara gasped. Her hands went to her head. "Neural activity spiking," Siv'reth reported. "Resonance beginning in the frontal cortex." "Stay with it," Faye said softly. "Just listen. It's just a heartbeat. You have a heartbeat. This is the same thing." Boom boom, boom boom. Pithara's breathing was ragged, but she didn't ask Faye to stop. The sound continued. Seconds became minutes. The monitoring equipment showed the neural spike beginning to level out. Not normalizing, not yet, but at least not escalating. Faye let the heartbeat play for 10 minutes. Then she faded in the second element. Breathing. Long, slow inhales and exhales. The natural rhythm of respiration. "Neural adaptation occurring," Siv'reth said. "Minimal, but measurable." Pithara's expression shifted from pain to concentration. She was listening now, really listening. Her own breathing synchronized with the recording. Her heartbeat, visible as a gentle pulse at her throat, matched the rhythm. The door slammed open. Commander Rost strode in, flanked by 2 security officers. His face was rigid with fury. "Medical Officer Siv'reth, you are relieved of duty effective immediately. Specialist Bridger, you are under arrest." Siv'reth stepped between the commander and the examination platform. "I cannot allow this procedure to be interrupted. Patient safety requires completion. Patient safety requires isolation from the weapon causing her condition." Rost gestured to the security officers. "Remove the human. Terminate the sound transmission." "No." Pithara's voice was quiet but firm. "I want to continue." Everyone stopped. Pithara sat up straighter, despite the pain clearly visible in her expression. "I can feel it working. The pain is less than before. My head is clearer. I want to continue." "You are not qualified to make that determination," Rost said. "I am qualified to decide what happens to my own body." Pithara's voice gained strength. "The human is right. I came from Kel'thar. We were told pattern sound would destroy us, that any exposure meant death. But I've been here weeks, hearing fragments of broadcasts through station systems, small amounts, and I was fine until the exposure increased. Which proves the danger, which proves I was adapting." Pithara stood, wavering slightly but determined. "I have felt my neural patterns changing, growing. The others died because they were exposed to too much, too fast. But if the exposure is controlled, graduated, the adaptation can complete safely." "Yes?" She looked at Siv'reth. The medical officer nodded slowly. "The classified research confirms this. Neural adaptation occurs with graduated exposure. The prohibition ensures our people remain vulnerable, dependent on government protection from a threat that could be neutralized through proper acclimation." Commander Rost's expression hardened. "That research is classified for good reason. The social stability of our civilization depends on certain cultural foundations. The prohibition against pattern sound is one of those foundations, even if it means our people die needlessly. Siv'reth's voice was cold. You knew about the adaptation potential. I knew that some things are more important than individual lives. Order, stability, cultural identity. Rost turned to the security officers. Remove them all, lock down this bay. Faye made a decision. She turned the volume up and hit play on the next file. Music flooded the medical bay. Not simple rhythms anymore. Full, complex, layered sound. Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, operatic vocals, guitar harmonies, drums and bass and piano all weaving together into something transcendent. Ithrani screamed. Siv'reth lunged for the speaker, but Faye held it away. Trust me, she can do this. You're killing her. I'm forcing the adaptation. Her neurons are primed. They've learned the basic patterns. Now they need to learn complexity. Faye kept her eyes on Ithrani. You can do this. Listen to the patterns. Find them. Follow them. Ithrani was doubled over, hands pressed to her temples, but she wasn't collapsing, wasn't falling into the cascading failure that had killed the others. She was fighting. The monitoring equipment showed her neural activity spiking wildly, then settling. Spiking again, settling faster. Each wave of resonance met with adaptation, her brain physically rewiring itself to handle the complexity. Freddie Mercury's voice soared through the crescendo. Nothing really matters. Ithrani straightened slowly, her hands lowered. Her expression shifted from agony to wonder. I hear it, she whispered. The patterns, the way they fit together, the way they speak. The song ended. The medical bay fell silent. Siv'reth stared at the monitoring equipment. Neural stress declining, adaptation patterns stabilizing. This worked. Commander Rost's face was unreadable. This changes nothing. This changes everything. Siv'reth turned to face him. You maintained a policy that kept our people vulnerable. That made exposure to pattern sound potentially fatal when it could have been harmless. 3 Ithrani are dead because of that policy. 3 Ithrani are dead because a human bombarded them with sonic weapons. 3 Ithrani are dead because our government wanted them vulnerable. Faye's voice was hard. You didn't protect them. You made sure they'd die if they ever encountered something you couldn't control. Rost's expression cracked. You understand nothing of governance, nothing of what it takes to maintain a civilization. Our people are unified because we have clear boundaries, clear prohibitions. Pattern sound is chaos. It affects neural chemistry in ways that make populations unpredictable, passionate, difficult to govern. You mean difficult to control, Ithrani said softly. You kept us afraid so we'd stay obedient. Other Ithrani were gathering at the medical bay entrance now. Word had spread. They watched in silence as Commander Rost faced down the accusations. I did what was necessary, he said. You did what was convenient. Siv'reth pulled up files on the datapad, projecting them onto the bay's main screen. These are the classified studies, 60 years old, showing conclusive evidence that graduated exposure to pattern sound is safe, that neural adaptation occurs naturally, that the prohibition was never about safety, it was about social control. The gathered Ithrani stared at the data. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I am placing you under formal investigation, Commander, Siv'reth continued, and I am implementing a new medical protocol. All Ithrani arriving from orthodox colonies will receive graduated pattern sound exposure under controlled conditions. We will not lose any more people to enforced ignorance. Rost looked around at the crowd, saw the anger in their faces, the betrayal. The Council will reverse this decision, he said. The prohibition will remain. Perhaps, Siv'reth acknowledged. But now our people know the truth. They can choose for themselves whether to accept adaptation or maintain isolation. Choice, Commander. The thing you denied them. Security escorted Rost from the medical bay. He went without resistance, but his expression promised this wasn't over. Faye sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking again, adrenaline crash hitting hard. Ithrani touched her shoulder gently. Thank you. You saved my life. I nearly killed you. You gave me a choice. That's more than my government ever did. Ithrani smiled, the expression tentative but genuine. Will you play more? I want to understand this thing that affects us so deeply. 6 months later, Faye stood in the communications hub again. The broadcast board was active, lights glowing green across all channels. The speakers were on. The station had changed. 47 Ithrani had gone through graduated exposure therapy. 23 more were in process. And for the first time in 3 centuries, there was an Ithrani music appreciation group meeting weekly in Conference Room B. The door opened. Siv'reth entered, moving with the easy confidence of someone who'd found their purpose. They'd taken over the station medical program after Rost's removal, restructuring protocols to focus on adaptation rather than isolation. "How do you feel?" Faye asked. "Nervous, excited, uncertain." Siv'reth smiled slightly. "You said these are common responses to new experiences." "They are. Ready? I am ready." Faye gestured to the chair beside hers. Siv'reth sat, and she carefully fitted headphones over their head. Not loud, not yet, but direct, clear, unmuffled. "Last chance to back out," Faye said. "Play it. I want to understand." Faye pulled up the file. "Twisted Sister, we're not gonna take it." Loud, defiant, aggressive rock and roll. Everything the Ithrani government had feared. She pressed play. Siv'reth's eyes widened. Their hands gripped the armrests, but they didn't pull away. The guitars crashed through the opening chords. Drums pounded. Dee Snider's voice roared the chorus anthem of rebellion. Siv'reth's expression cycled through pain, discomfort, confusion. Then, slowly, something else emerged. Recognition, joy, liberation. The song ended. Siv'reth pulled off the headphones carefully. Their hands were shaking. Their eyes were bright. "That hurt," they said quietly. "Yeah, and it was magnificent." Faye laughed. "Welcome to rock and roll. Play it again." Siv'reth's voice was firm, louder this time. Faye turned up the volume. The music crashed over them both, loud enough to feel in their bones. Siv'reth closed their eyes and let it wash through them, the sound that their government had called a weapon, the thing they'd been taught to fear. Freedom hurt sometimes, but it was worth it. When the song ended again, Siv'reth opened their eyes. "We have released the research data to the Ithrani homeworld. The council is displeased, I bet. They are calling for sanctions, demanding the prohibition be reinstated." Siv'reth's expression was peaceful despite the gravity of their words. "But other stations are requesting our adaptation protocols. Orthodox colonies are questioning the prohibitions for the first time. Change is coming, whether the council accepts it or not. Because of rock and roll? Because of choice." The music was merely the catalyst. Siv'reth stood, moved to the window overlooking the station's common area. Below, an Ithrani and a human were teaching basic rhythm patterns to a mixed group of species. "We were told pattern sound would destroy us. And in a way, your government was correct. It has destroyed our ignorance, our comfortable isolation, our willingness to be protected through oppression. Is that a good thing? It is a necessary thing. Growth requires discomfort. Evolution requires adaptation." Siv'reth turned back to Faye. "Thank you for showing us we could survive the pain of change." Faye pulled up her music library, scrolling through decades of human sound. "What do you want to hear next?" Siv'reth smiled. "Everything. I want to hear everything." If you have enjoyed the story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.